And they were, despite the fact that Democrat mayors and governors all over the country were destroying their own cities, destroying their own economies, keeping them locked down more than they needed to, just like here in LA, just like in California, just like what Tim Walz did in Minnesota. These things all happened. And so if you want to talk about inflation, what causes inflation? Lack of supply, too much demand. They injected a ton of demand, $2 trillion worth in American Rescue Plan, and then they screwed supply by screwing up and closing down factories and businesses. That creates a perfect storm. Republican policies are not responsible for any of that.
Well, some of that whole impeachment thing.
Which part? The ones that Democrats impeached him for?
Withholding aid to Ukraine.
Well, the thing that Biden did before that.
Point.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, but that's diplomacy. And Biden did the exact.
That's not diplomacy.
Biden did the exact same thing, literally to the exact same country.
No, he didn't.
Yes,
really?
he did.
What did he do?
He was bragging about withholding aid unless they fired that the prosecutor.
A corrupt prosecutor,
right,
which
exactly.
is what your party complains about.
Hey, y'all. So in this one, we have a debate between Bill Maher, James Carville, Dan Crenshaw, and Caitlyn Collins, where it's basically a 3-on-1 against Dan Crenshaw, who's not really even my favorite person at all. I'm actually not a big fan, but he's forced to defend Trump essentially because it is a 3-on-1. And because we're a fan of truth, we're going to go through this one, correct some of the lies, and hopefully it'll be entertaining along the way. Let's go ahead and check it out.
All right, here's what people want to know. Dan, what explains why certain Republicans like Tucker Carlson have become so pro-Putin? Good question. What does explain that?
Your buddy. Man, I don't know. Tucker hates my guts. I mean, I think we all know that.
Well, that says a lot for you.
Yeah, you guys. I don't know how to explain Tucker. I've never met Tucker, never even spoken with him. He just trashes me because I think it's a bad idea if Russia wins a land war in Europe. And I would remind everybody, I know this is getting serious, but I would remind everybody, if you don't stop Russia there, right, and we're spending maybe 5 to 10% of our GDP, defense spending just on supporting Ukraine so they can fight their own battles. If you didn't do that, if you never gave them any stingers, never gave them any javelins, you'd have a Russian army that is fully intact and also very aware that we don't defend our friends, and they'd be on the border of former NATO countries. If you want to get closer to war, that's how you get closer to war. So what do I make of some random, his opinion who got fired from Fox News? I don't know.
That opinion, which I agree with, is out of step with your own party.
It's about half and half. I mean,
really?
You can see it in our votes, yeah. I mean, it's an ongoing discussion. And Trump, by the way, has never ran away from it. Trump has always said, first of all, he threatened Putin when he was in office. He said, "Look, we're going to bomb."
With what, a kiss?
In a culture like Russia's, that would be a threat.
Right.
But no, he said, purportedly said, "I'm going to bomb the shit out of Moscow if you invade Ukraine." In any case, we know he didn't invade Ukraine while he was president. He increased the lethal aid to Ukraine by a lot, actually. And he's never said he's backing away from Ukraine. What he has said is it should be a loan, we should have mining rights, Europeans should pay more, all things I think we all agree with.
Okay.
Except that whole impeachment thing.
Which part? The ones that Democrats impeached him for?
Withholding aid to Ukraine.
The thing that Biden did before that.
Point.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, but that's diplomacy. And Biden did the exact.
That's not diplomacy.
Biden did the exact same thing, literally to the exact same country.
No, he didn't.
Yes,
really?
he did.
What did he do?
He was bragging about withholding aid unless they fired that the prosecutor.
A corrupt prosecutor,
right,
which is what your party complains about.
I'm sorry, but if Bill Maher doesn't know about Joe Biden bragging on camera that he got the prosecutor fired by now, he needs to exit the political conversation, seriously. And it's hard for me to believe that anybody in the political sphere doesn't understand that this happened.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said. I said, "Call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
wins and
diplomacy.
aid to them.
So American presidents have that power to say, no, we're going to withhold aid because we don't like what you're doing. If our State Department and I'm not bashing Biden for doing that either, by the way.
But Trump was withholding aid because he wanted an
impeach somebody for
investigation
doing what
into
is
Hunter
within their
Biden.
powers as the president. Sorry,
You know, you could misuse power. And he was saying if you don't, it was congressionally authorized, I think it was $400 million authorization. And he tells the guy, if you don't give me some dirt, I'm going to withhold it. I'm sorry. I don't know. That's not right. That's not right. Congress voted for that. It was the law. And
did James Carville just say that Donald Trump, while he was president, threatened to withhold congressionally approved funds to go to Ukraine in an effort to try to dig up dirt on Biden? Are you serious? I mean, how hypocritical do you have to be? It was Biden who said on video, as vice president, no less, that he threatened Ukraine to withhold congressional approved funds in order to get the prosecutor fired. I don't care if the Democrats want to say that the guy was corrupt or not. I don't care if he was corrupt or not. That was Joe Biden admitting on camera that he did that. Once Trump heard and saw the video, it was his duty as president to investigate it. And the Democrats saw that as election interference against Joe Biden when Joe Biden hadn't even announced that he was going to run for president yet, which was something that the Democratic Party used to impeach Trump. So you can admit that withholding congressionally approved funds is against the law and shouldn't be done, yet you can't concede that when Joe Biden admits to have done it on camera as vice president, that Joe Biden did anything wrong. Even to the point that I believe if Joe Biden was still on the 2024 ticket, James Carville would go vote for Joe Biden this year. These people have no principles, and I'm sick of their lies.
And I think the whole, I don't understand the whole Russia stuff in terms of Tucker. He was a friend of mine, did a show with him. He used to say that shit in the green room, and I thought he was joking and being provocative. It turned out he really believed it.
What is the most pressing question, Caitlyn, you would ask VP Harris if you had the chance? Ooh.
I would have a lot of questions for her, but I do think I would ask about, where she stood when she was running as a candidate and for the 2020 Democratic primary and where she stands on a lot of issues now. She's criticized a lot by Republicans for reversing her positions. I think also, Donald Trump has reversed a lot of his positions from covering those. But I think I would be interested in her evolution and where her instincts are and, what she learned from governing with a moderate like President Biden.
Wouldn't we all be interested in hearing what Kamala has to say? But ever since she's officially been the candidate, she hasn't done one interview. So good luck finding out that information with 2 months to go before the election.
ABC debate.
If it happens, I still think it's an open question. Of
Really?
whether or not it happens.
Trump's going to go. He's got to.
You think that Trump is going to pull out?
I think Trump is nervous about it. I think Trump, I talked to a lot of sources in his world. I think he has really struggled with it. It's not just a narrative or a talking point from Democrats. He really has struggled with how to combat her. And I think going into that debate, he does not really want to do it. I think it's difficult, if not impossible, for him to pull out because his campaign manager had cards printed that said anywhere, anytime, any place for President Biden, and it would look weak. But I don't think he's looking forward to it at this point.
No.
I would, whether he does the debate or not, I don't know. I'm not a political pundit trying to analyze this stuff. But I do know that it's a very easy debate to win. So all you have to say is, look, you had 4 years, I had 4 years. When I was president, and when you were president, here's the differences. Gas prices are up 50% when you're vice president. Electricity prices up 30%. Grocery up 22%. The list keeps going. Taxes were lower under Trump. They raised them under Biden and Harris. Regulations were lower under Trump. They raised them under Biden and Harris. Immigration numbers way down. They actually tried to stop the problem. Record numbers under Biden and Harris. This is a very easy debate to win because on the metrics, it's very easy to show side by side.
Okay,
but that's what his campaign wants him to say. But Donald Trump it's not a campaign where you just give him his talking points and he goes out there and delivers them. Yeah. Donald Trump is his own biggest impediment. His own campaign will tell you that. He's questioning whether or not her race and whether or not she's actually black at an event with black journalists. It's stuff like that that his campaign is, watching in real time and knowing he's their own biggest liability.
What I want most of all is for my daughter to grow up in a place where she can start her own business more easily, where she's not competing against men on a swimming team or in a wrestling match. That's what I want most of all. And so the Trump policies simply are better. You have less of the bad stuff, more of the good stuff, right?
I don't know.
How was it coined?
I don't know how to break this to you.
Like, what other things that are supposed to be down are up, and all things supposed to be up or down?
I know, 50 to 1. I know.
I
know. 50 to 1.
I can run circles around you on the economics of this.
Let's go back to 280 votes.
Okay.
What does Trump do if he loses this? Now, he lost the last election, right?
Yeah, he lost the last election.
Right. Okay, that's a very important thing.
Somebody else is president.
But he hasn't conceded losing that last election. My point to you, sir, is that gas prices and food prices go up and down. But this shit is forever.
Okay.
Don't
take my word for Biden policies being responsible for inflation. You
Okay.
can just ask the Fed and their statements in 2022.
That's not the question I'm asking.
It was all on fiscal stimulus, which was the American Rescue Plan.
But I'm saying that stuff, that's the normal stuff of politics and economics. It goes up and down. But not
normal.
But wait, but wouldn't you consider?
A simple and important fact that Bill Maher just conveniently glosses over when spoken from the congressman who actually has an inside track to some of this information. Are you in this conversation to learn, or are you just in it to have the conversation? I wonder.
Normal.
But wait, but wouldn't you concede that not conceding elections is a much bigger, more existential issue, and that he's not going to concede this election? Can you imagine, can you tell me a scenario where he loses, maybe even by more, and he concedes the election? Can you imagine him saying, I've seen the results, and I'd like to congratulate Kamala Harris on running a good campaign? It's impossible to imagine.
I don't have to.
Yeah. It is kind of hard to imagine Trump saying Kamala Harris ran a great campaign when she's not running a campaign at all. She has no policies on her website. She's not doing interviews. And anytime she speaks off teleprompter, she sounds like a drunk. She cackles. It's completely cringe. There's no reason. I don't understand why anybody would actually like this person. The only reason people are going to vote for her is because of the D next to her name, which is disgusting. We're not playing sports here. We're dealing with American politics. Not to mention, it was Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and the mainstream media that said that Trump didn't win in 2016 and that it was Russian collusion and all this nonsense, which was fake, to the point where even Donald Trump himself hired a special prosecutor to conduct an investigation that wasted like $50 million of our taxpayer money to prove his innocence, which it did. Okay? So let's get real here.
I don't have to imagine. I don't have to imagine any of it because I know the history of it. And the history of it is he moved out of the White House. There was a peaceful transition of power, and there was an inauguration on January 21st.
He tried everything not to do that.
They tried to do the same unconstitutional process that Democrats did in the last three elections when Republicans
won. The Democrats
won.
sent fake electors. The Democrats pressured the Justice Department. The Democrats went to court and got laughed out of it. No,
So
that
you're talking about legal
that never
processes
happened
right
in
now.
any other
You're
election.
talking about utilizing the legal process. Now, I disagree with the fact that there should even be a process to decertify an election, but Democrats did it 3 times in the elections prior to that. Where was the hand-wringing then? Stacey Abrams has never said that she lost the governor's race in Georgia.
And that's wrong.
Nobody wrings their hands about it.
That's wrong, and it's a false equivalency to sending fake electors.
What do you mean fake electors? What fake electors?
What's fake electors?
There's no fake electors.
Let's get something straight. There's no fake electors. Donald Trump used legal processes that the Democratic Party had used 3 times prior to this instance. So this nonsense about Donald Trump trying to send fake electors is just that. It's complete nonsense.
But on the inheriting a good economy, can we address that real quick? Because that's often a talking point, and it's completely false. By the time Biden took office, real GDP was back to pre-pandemic levels. And one of the quarters in the last year of Trump, 35% increase in GDP, then 5%, then 4%. You were well on your way to a recovered economy by the time Biden got to take office. That's where a lot of those job gains were coming from. And they were despite the fact that Democrat mayors and governors all over the country were destroying their own cities, destroying their own economies, keeping them locked down more than they needed to, just like here in LA, just like in California, just like what Tim Walz did in Minnesota. These things all happened. And so if you want to talk about inflation, what causes inflation? Lack of supply, too much demand. They injected a ton of demand, $2 trillion worth in American Rescue Plan, and then they screwed supply by screwing up and closing down factories and businesses. That creates a perfect storm. Republican policies are not responsible for any of that.
Well, some of the
economic conditions in the United States in December of 2020 compared to December of 2016. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to find. It was a lot better in December.
There was a global pandemic.
Again, you know,
obviously.
I try not to interrupt you.
Okay.
Because I have respect for you. You're
I'm
Lieutenant
sorry.
Commander in
I'm
the
sorry.
Navy.
I'm
all
sorry.
right?
Go
But
ahead.
what happened was they assaulted the Capitol at the encouragement of him. They are celebrating this on 5 September of 2024.
Right.
And if a Democrat...
Oh, here we go. January 6th, once again, has nothing to do with job recovery and what we're talking about, but it's a cop-out that the Democrats always have to fall back to because they want to say that Trump encouraged rioters to break into the Capitol when the reality is those rioters broke into the Capitol while Trump was down the street giving a speech at the Ellipse. Okay, so he was still giving a speech while this was happening. There was no way for him to find out. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand this. Not only that, once the people that were watching Trump speak, they had to walk 30 minutes down the street to get to the Capitol. So by the time they got there, the crazy stuff that happened was already over. Not to mention, when you put 1 million people in one place, there is no cell phone service. Nobody had access to any kind of information via the internet. So don't give me this nonsense. You don't understand the factors that were involved. And when you just fall back to say January 6th, that makes you look weak in my opinion. That's nonsense. This dude, James Carville, is a complete moron. He needs to wipe his mouth. It's disgusting.
Right.
And if a Democrat did something like that, I would go nuts.
But also to act like what Democrats have done before, which is often something that Republicans, when we have them on my show, say when we talk about January 6th and the fake electors and Trump refusing to admit that he lost the election. There was barely a peaceful transfer of power. They actually wouldn't even allow them to move forward with getting federal funding to start the transition for weeks. I remember it was because we found out about a little-known position that no one in the federal government even really knew much about because of that. But also, the difference then is Joe Biden went and certified the election. He was the vice president then, and he certified Donald Trump's election and
So did Mike
there was
Pence.
not a massive.
Maybe
Because Mike
we
Pence was
could all
pressured not to by
agree
Donald
that
Trump.
the entire process of certification is bullshit. It's unconstitutional. Democrats opened this door. Republicans ran through it. Congress, I'm hearing
did
boos
not
in the
open
audience.
the door.
The Constitution, yes, they did. 3
You can't
elections in a
compare-
row.
you cannot compare
I can
those.
because they're going through what they deem to be a legal process. I think it's illegal, no matter which party does it. Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that says Congress gets to certify the election. They don't even use that word. This is based on an old 1886 law from the Reconstruction era. It's for a very different situation. We need to get rid of that entire process.
We need to have a full page 1 rewrite of the Constitution, not that there aren't some great things in it.
We have the oldest Constitution in the world.
Right, and some of it is ridiculous. I live in a state with 40 million people, and I get 2 senators, and the Dakota Territory gets 4. All right, we got to go.
Well, that wraps up the debate. I gotta say, I completely disagree with Bill Maher there at the end. Rewriting the Constitution would be a terrible thing. The Democrats, the Republicans, all of the leaders up there have been bought. They're dinosaurs. And I'm not about to have those people who have never had their balls on the line, who have never fought for anything, go and rewrite one of the greatest documents in world history that was written by men that lost their lives because of it, that gave their lives to make it happen. I'm not about to have that happen, dude. Those people, those men back then that wrote the Constitution, those dudes made something that was genius, that superseded their time, and it was because what they went through with their past, and they knew how corrupt governments could be. And I'm not about to have the most corrupt government in world history rewrite the Constitution that gives the power back to the people. I'm sorry, not for that. Bill Maher, you're an idiot. Eye Patch McCain, if that's what you said, you're an idiot as well if you agreed. I'm not trying to hear that bullshit. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you agree, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one.